Well, folks, we have well and truly started the race to the bottom, at least when it comes to Disney Marvel. Boy, has the landscape changed over the last 5 years. Not only that, the Marvels finds itself competing with the Hunger Games. Believe it or not. Here we go. So, there are two triumphs in the box office right now. You have the Hunger Games, the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and a massive, wonderful, amazing The Marvels out there. And let's focus first on the newcomer, the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. It premiered slightly below expectations, but still pretty impressive for its budget at $44 million domestic. You couple that with a strong overseas debut at $55 million or so, and you're not doing too badly. Coming up close to $100 million at $98.5 million for a debut. And despite opening below initial projections, the strong female appeal of the under 25 female demographic and positive word of mouth, according to some, you're looking at a positive Thanksgiving stretch potentially for this film, or at least an opportunity at a steady run. And it's more than obvious that you have to draw comparisons between Songbirds and Snakes and the monumental collapse of the Marvels. Those comparisons are inevitable. The latter suffered a 79% drop in its second weekend, almost 80%, and by the time the numbers are roughed up a little bit more, it could be over an 80% fall. Hey Grant, how would you measure that kind of fall? What would that be?
Really, really big.
Look, this is the biggest decline ever in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. There's no competition. The domestic tally now stands at $65 million at the moment against a $220 million budget that they're willing to admit to, which we know is baloney sausage, and is probably closer to $300 million at the moment, if not way more. And that's even if you look at the fact that there will be reductions from the UK's tax credits. I don't think there's enough tax credits in the UK to fix the problems financially that this film has. Ultimately, you're going to hear a bunch of "I told you so" from content creators like myself. And look, it's well deserved. The original Captain Marvel was only successful because it was between two of the biggest movies ever. Well, the two biggest Marvel movies ever, and it opened at $153 million domestic. Those are pretty good numbers. It also had a lot of longevity. Well, something that clearly this film isn't going to have. Look at it this way. The successive drastic failures of multiple films consecutively is a real problem that you can't shake off, nor should any investor ignore. The MCU, was known for domination at the box office. It's now faltering regularly, and it's highlighting the disconnect that it has with its audience. It's a wake-up call. It's underscoring the importance of engaging the demographics that got you there, particularly the male audience whose historic support was what propelled superhero films to the heights they reached in the first place. Now, the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, despite a less exuberant start compared to the franchise's previous films, is financially structured very differently. It gives Lionsgate an opportunity to, cover its production costs primarily through early foreign sales and German tax credits, which significantly minimize their risk exposure on the front end. However, the challenge lies for this particular film in that it didn't line up with the previous source material because it had to craft a new story around the bad guy, which it did a good job. If you haven't seen my review, check it out right up there. Totally worth your time. Now, as a prequel, they understood that they had to tell a more sophisticated story because it was a more nuanced character. It was more of a character study than it was an actual exciting film. There was no war in this, not a lot of superhero moments or anything like that. No girl power was present. In fact, they underplayed a lot of the power of the ladies in the film, which was surprising. At the same time, they also had to appeal to a different audience. Well, not technically, it was the same audience, they were just older, with more life experience and probably children. So they really tried to rejuvenate this franchise in a way that they could bring that audience along and maybe pull their kids along behind them. Oftentimes films like this are set up as catalysts to move beyond the box office into other areas like theme parks and obviously merchandise and stuff like that. But they also are looking to see if they can build on this world. Based on the initial reception, I'd say no. but it's better than finding out later, like with Fantastic Beasts, which you could see the decline from the opening figures from film to film, and that one was just going to fall off forever. I think that franchise is done, at least for the time being. And despite its opening, Songbirds and Snakes has retained some very promising exits. You have most of the ladies there very excited about the film. You have males like myself saying happier stuff about it. You have Post-Track giving it 4.5 stars, which means nothing. Of course, they were targeting the ladies that were under 25 and the 18 to 24 crowd. But this film probably looks like it's headed for that little bit of a run, at least during the course of the holidays, at least here in the States. And there is regional appeal. I mean, the South and Mountain regions were more interested in this than maybe the New York City and Los Angeles centered areas because, hey, they don't have anything to relate to. They don't have to fight for much. Well, at least not yet. Anyway, but here's a very strange phenomenon. Right now you have 3 films in a row, possibly 4 if you want to count Trolls as something that would target more of the female audience. Basically, those are the offerings in wide release there's not a lot of appealing dude films out there. In fact, I'll mention Trolls because it had a pretty impressive open at $30.6 million this weekend, but that's clearly targeted at a younger family audience and more on the female side. It's probably going to do really well on PVOD, but it can't get stuck there because it's happened to it already. You don't want to do that more than once. And are you really looking to release this early on in the holiday season around, well, Christmas here in the States? I don't think that's a good plan. So you need to leave that film, Trolls, in the theaters for as long as possible. And at least it finished better than the Marvels. One of the biggest problems here is that you have 3 consecutive girl power films in a row, one each week, and each of them underperforming the next. I expect very little out of Wish. I don't know about you. Can't wait to talk about it. But these box office performances make things evident that success or failure of any kind of franchise it relies on something beyond the financial metrics. It relies on an audience to be there. You have to engage them. You cannot disregard a male demographic in the superhero genre or in any hero genre. You do so at your peril. To sum up, we likely have not reached the end of the girl power movement, which is really bad news for, well, the exhibitors, all the theaters, you and me as the audience, but most importantly, the studios, because of just how much time, money, and effort they have invested into manufacturing a lot of things that there was no audience for, all because they chose to appeal to metrics that only lie with a tiny fraction of the populace around the globe. It's not a good way to do business. It's really hurting them. Funnily enough, I still think Marvel wins the race to the bottom because they were so much higher towards the top. On that note, I'd be really interested in what your thoughts on the spectacular collapse of the Marvels this weekend, the very disappointing performance of the Hunger Games Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and whether or not you were interested in seeing any of the other offerings like Thanksgiving or Trolls over the course of the last weekend. Also, give me some ideas what you're going to see over the Thanksgiving holiday here in the States. I may go see a movie myself. So be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, and until next time, see ya!